Do you have questions about buying or selling a home, not sure if you're qualified? Your local real estate agent Antoinette Ware is here for you. Do you live out of town, moving out of town, or looking for investment property? Well, let's work together and make it happen. Antoinette Ware can be reached at 419-917-6258. The name you know, celebrating over 20 years, serving Toledo and surrounding areas. Frida's Cleaning Service is a small family-owned business established in 2003. With over 17 years of professional, high-quality, and greatly satisfied service, the Frida's Cleaning Service will get the job done. Specializing in sanitizing your home, business, post-construction, and commercial cleaning, no job's too big or small. See for yourself and give us a call, 567-249-9172. La Frida's Cleaning Service. Our reputation is always spotless.
Are you tired of driving around a dirty car? Say hello to the ultimate solution for your car. Quick Auto Detail, home, work, or wherever. Their mobile car spa will clean and shine your car anytime and anywhere. Their products are gentle on your car's paint, and they use only the highest quality materials. Book your appointment now.
Hi, this is TV comedy impressionist Christopher G from the other side of the pond saying hi, and I love the Queen Silvy show.
To the Queen Silvy show, tune in at 11, good laugh, good vibe, that's for sure. Get smooth with Tim, get smooth with Tim. They have you running like you popped the pill. Once you hear the show, you ain't gonna want it to end. Get creative with the sounds you can make with your mouth. Reaching all over the world, Queen Silvy in the house. Award-winning show, got the #1 spot, look out. It's the Queen Silvy show, 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 it's the Queen Silvy show.
Hi, this is Joe Mass. You are listening to the Queen Silvy Show. You are now part of the royalty.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live, it's time for the silky smooth sounds of Smooth Tim and Her Majesty herself, Queen Silvy.
Hey, it is Smooth Tim, and thank you for dropping by and spending another terrific Tuesday with us on the multiple award-winning Queen Silvy Show. Speaking of Queen Silvy, it is my absolute pleasure to bring her to you right now, the world's sexiest granny, the Queen herself, Queen Silvy. Where you at, Queen? Come in the screen. There you go. Still in
Floating
wardrobe,
around,
huh?
yes,
Yeah, those.
floating around in space, just waiting. Hey,
Man, we're gonna have to get on wardrobe.
well, it's all good. I'm here now.
You're looking great, by the way.
Stop, silly. You're right.
Facts are facts.
Let me make sure I can hear myself really good. Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in this great world today. I am Queen Silvy. On this terrific Tuesday, the multiple award-winning The Queen Silvy Show. How are you, Smooth?
I'm doing terrific on this Tuesday, Queen, and how are you doing?
As always, I'm supercalifragilistic.
Expialidocious, I suppose, is 24/7, 365. Queen Silvy, you are just simply amazing.
I know. True that. I am amazing. But you are amazing, Smooth. You are amazing. We have an amazing guest as well as announcements, don't we?
You know what, Queen? You are absolutely right. As far as announcements, as always, our hearts and prayers are going out around the world. You know, there's still all kinds of stuff going on. It's absolutely ridiculous, you know, at times. And all we see in the world is turmoil.
Right.
I'm getting a little bit tired of it. I imagine probably so.
Must change.
Everybody out there, you got to be getting tired of this. We could use a change,
Right.
a little bit of kindness instead
Right.
of all this animosity towards each other for whatever reason.
Right.
And what do you always say?
Faith over fear. That's right.
Absolutely. Hey, how about shout-outs from last week's show? The United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Mexico, Germany, Australia, France, Ireland, Africa, and Poland. Hey, man, we appreciate you tuning on in.
Yes.
And also on today's show, Queen, as you aforementioned at the top of the show, we have a licensed clinical social worker, certified biofeedback practitioner, and author, founder,
Yes.
CEO
Yes.
of the Alternative Pain Treatment Dictionary.
Directory. You better believe it.
Directory. Yeah, okay, dictionary, directory, so.
You say dictionary, I say directory.
I grew up in Ohio, so you got to excuse the way I speak. Cindy Perlin.
That's right. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to that.
Yes, I am.
Otherwise, hey, that just about does it, Queen.
Hey, and I thank you very much, Smooth. And I also thank you because you are so in for a super treat. Very informative indeed. Pass the word around. You do have time to be kind and spread the word for someone else to come on in and get this super greatness we have in store for you, baby. But what I like to do at this moment before I get into my conversation with my wonderful guest is I like to share some motivational words from the Queen Silvy Show to you. Love yourself first, and everything else will fall in line. I mean, you really have to love yourself to get anything done in this world. I mean, be miserable or motivate yourself. Or you see, whatever you have to do, do it. It's always your choice, of course. So have faith in your abilities, confidence in your own power. Because if you aren't going to do it and help yourself, nobody else will. And with all the advice in the world, it won't help you unless you love and help yourself. That's right, right? And those are some motivational words from the Queen Silvy Show to you. Before we go any further, do you know, I must represent my good kings and queens all over the world. Like you, holistic health advocate Mara Riley, Marie McKinsley and the International Sexual Assault Recovery Institute, Carmen Jewel and Massage Therapy by Carmen, Simone Enterprise and Entertainment Company, and the Simone Family Foundation. A Journey Through Healing with Beatrice Crawford Daniels. Hey.
Shout out to you.
To Kinsley Patino, Queen Jenna, Queen Ashley, Follette Clark, and Kenneth Rawls.
Shout out to you.
To Helen Myers, Peace Myers, Corey and Casey Patino, and Joan Mercer.
Shout out to you.
To Queen Aaliyah, Asia, Tay, Maya, Camille, and Dejour.
Shout out to you.
To my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren.
Shout out to you.
That's right. To Jonathan Easley, Lee Allen Sr., Wade and Katrina, LP and Cynthia, Melvin and Teresa, Kaki, and Mike.
Shout out to you.
Queen Sonia, Kaki, Shanika, Alana, Brianna, and Precious.
Shout out to you.
To Nancy, Delia, and Chrissy from Fort Worth, Texas.
Shout out to you.
To Ryan, Kelly, and the All-American Boys, Matt and Tracy, and the All-American Girls.
Shout out to you.
I think I need to pause for the call and clear my throat one moment.
Oof, oof. Meow. Ready.
ribbon part. I'm telling you, don't knock it till you try it. To Pamela Anderson, C. Shorty Franklin, Patricia Wilhelm McGiffin, Renita Easley, Gold Rosa, Donna Ferry, and Pam Bailey.
Yeah, do you?
To my good friends in Africa, Amy Kanima, Webster Rito, Hostile Flow, Hero Boy, and Princess Aria Lua.
Yeah, do you?
To Sabrina Williams, Pinky Harmon, Sassy Savage, Robin Taylor, and DJ Team Broke 100.
Yeah, do you?
To my good friends in United Kingdom, Beth Lambert, Nicola Jones, Bethany Jones, and Kay Cross.
Yeah, do you?
Lorenzo Gabaniza, Christine Lewis Anderson, James and Audrey, Serious Edition, and Nana Linda Hartley.
Yeah, do you?
To Edith Verhoek, Queen D. Brown, Sandra and Ben Johnson, Melody Gore Dobb, Miguel Montebon, Brian Pearson, Brenda Ramirez, and my good friend, Joe Moore.
Shout out to you.
Yeah. Hey, if you would love to be shouted out, if you have someone you would love for us to represent and shout out, we will hook you up 3 days a week, every Tuesday, with the multiple award-winning The Queen Silvy Show every Wednesday, with Tim's Tidbits, and again every Thursday with the Now You Know Show with Queen Silvy and Smooth Tim, as we bring the best in live entertainment, talents, topics, and resources from around the world just for you. Check out this resource, and when we get back, let's get the ball rolling. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Are you? With the super greatness we have in store for you on the Queen Silvy Show. Hi, I'm Queen Silvy of the multiple award-winning The Queen Silvy Show. You want to expand and get noticed? Then come outside your box and into our world. Internet advertising has a real impact on global awareness and even sales, so let's make an impact together. Offering for a limited time advertising and sponsorship packages that excel your purpose. So contact Queen Silvy or Smooth Tim for the exciting opportunities that awaits. Yeah.
Ma'am.
Hey, we are back on this terrific Tuesday. As I said before, you do have time to be kind and spread the word for someone else to go on in and get this super greatness we have in store for you. With a serious conversation about the options for chronic pain treatment, including the benefits of medical marijuana. For over 30 years with her own private practice, helping clients improve their emotional and physical well-being, she's here for you. Live from Albany, New York, I introduce to you licensed clinical social worker, certified biofeedback practitioner, chronic pain survivor, author, and founder and CEO at Alternative Pain Treatment Directory, Cindy Perlin.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hi, Cindy. I'm so honored to have you here today. Before we get into things like the pain optional treatments, including medical marijuana, in which I am receiving so many messages and testimonies of people about marijuana and pain. Listen, audience, give it up to Cindy, if you will. Because for over 30 years, you've had your own private practice. You've been helping people as a licensed clinical social worker. Elaborate, if you will, your role and the type of clients you've counseled and assisted in a clinical role work capacity.
Well, I've really treated a very broad range of clients from like age 4 to age 84 with a wide range of problems. A particular interest of mine has been chronic pain, but I've also treated people with anxiety and depression, ADHD. Some of the biofeedback I do is good for things like stroke and brain injury. So it's been a very broad, field. Post-traumatic stress disorder is another very common one, and there's a link between that and chronic pain. So it's been an interesting 30 years.
Are you doing what you've always wanted to do?
Yes, with each stage in my life, I feel like, everything that's come before has prepared me for that moment, So, my own life experience has been really important in terms of helping people, in terms of what I've been through, especially recovering from disabling chronic pain that I was told at the age of 28 that I might have for the rest of my life. So, a big message of mine is never give up hope. There's always a way.
Absolutely. And I always say faith over fear also. That's another big one. But I'm sure that, there's rewarding aspects as a licensed clinical social worker. I think one of them would probably be the relationship and trust that you have with your clients and their families. But what is the most challenging aspects of the work that you do?
Hmm. I haven't really thought about that because I just feel like whatever it is, we can work it through. I think that, the real challenge is when people aren't willing to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
When I see people and they don't pay any attention to me.
Right. They have to put in the effort too. You know what I mean?
Right, right. So
So,
it's a partnership
right.
for people to get better.
That's right. So explain for someone that's unaware, about biofeedback and what you do as a certified biofeedback practitioner.
So biofeedback is about um, using electronic instruments to measure your physiology and then feed it back to you. So you could be measuring things like muscle tension, heart rate, respiration rate, skin moisture, even, which is a measure of stress. The most complicated, complex thing is brainwave biofeedback, where you're working with the electrical activity of the brain, and then the patient is looking at a computer screen that's giving them information about how they're doing, and then that helps to master the task of changing the measurements for the better.
Hmm.
So with what's called peripheral biofeedback, which is everything but the brain, you're usually teaching about relaxation techniques. You're usually, showing people how to do a relaxation technique, coaching them while they watch the effect on their body. With brainwave biofeedback, you're letting the software do the work because the feedback that they need is so quick that you couldn't possibly intervene in the moment, and you're trying to get to the unconscious part of the brain.
Hmm. I have a couple pictures of some equipment. What specialized equipment is it that you use?
Well, I use two different instruments. One is called what is it called? Um, It's put out by Thought Technology. Oh, what you're looking at there, that picture is light therapy. It's not biofeedback, it's red and infrared light therapy,
Mm-hmm.
which can heal tissue.
So do you also do therapy with cats?
I've done therapy with my own cats. I've got four wonderful cats, and they, if they get ill, I sometimes use it on them. Oh,
Mm.
and are you talking about my cat co-therapist?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so I have four cats. I work out of my home, which I've done for 30 years. And my cats are always around and they're all very friendly. Of course, over the period of 30 years, I've had different cats,
Hmm.
but they've all been just wonderful co-therapists.
That's all
They
right.
calm people down and make people laugh. And, generally, they help with relaxation.
So Patrice from North Carolina, I did want to share her question because it was not medical marijuana related, and she asked, "Can a child benefit from biofeedback?"
Yes, I've had children as young as 4 years old do the brainwave biofeedback.
So,
And, I've had kids as young as 8 or 9 do the peripheral biofeedback, what we were talking about with
right.
hand temperature, muscle tension, things like that. So children can benefit. And actually, they learn very, very quickly. They're actually quicker learners than most adults.
Wow. Because I'm trying to figure how with a 4-year-old, and using biofeedback as a tool for both the assessment and the intervention. What's the process for you to navigate and triumph over challenges for someone like a child? What will they be coming to you for biofeedback for?
So they typically they're coming for attention deficit disorder, particularly, with that age, they're very, what's noticeable is the hyperactivity. I can remember one 4-year-old I worked with. The process is that you put sensors on the scalp to measure the electrical activity of the brain. And those sensors are picking up. They're not doing anything to the brain. They're just picking up the signal. What the patient is watching generally is a movie, and the movie plays better if if the brain is going in the direction we want it to. So by play better, depending on the software I use, it'll either start and stop as the brain does its work, or it'll shrink and grow the size of the screen and the brightness of the screen. So it plays more pleasantly when the brain is doing what it wants. And with the movies, the child or the parent can pick the movie. It's something engaging with the child. One 4-year-old that I worked with, she was so hyperactive, she was bouncing off the walls, that to start with, she had to sit in her mother's lap and her mother had to hold her in place. So,
Wow.
but it worked phenomenally well.
I'm like,
At the
cut
end,
back on that
she could
sugar.
sit for 30 minutes and watch a movie all on her own, and just in general be less hyperactive and more attentive.
Right. I think give her less sugar also. That'll do it. 'Cause I have so many grandchildren. Boy, that's the first thing they wanted something sweet. And I'm like, not getting you going.
Yeah,
But you
that is
mentioned,
an issue with kids, especially very sensitive kids.
mm-hmm.
Diet for all kids makes a difference, but with very sensitive kids, it can make a difference within minutes.
Wow. You are a doctor. You are amazing doing some great things because that takes more than patience in dealing with doing clients like that. But you yourself, you mentioned that you have been through something when you were around like maybe 25 years old. You hurt your back, followed by foot pain, and who knows what else. You are a chronic pain survivor. So share with me your story of dealing with the chronic pain and how you've come out of it.
Okay, so when I was 25, I was very active and healthy, and I decided to run to get in better shape. And I hurt my back. It just started bothering me more and more. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, stop running, and gave me some exercises, back exercises. And I followed his instructions and hurt my back doing the exercises. And as time went on, it just got worse and worse instead of better, to the point where I was in agony 24/7,
Mm.
and nothing seemed to help. I didn't know what to do. I went to doctors, they gave me drugs, including narcotics, including muscle relaxants, and it just turned me into a zombie, but I still had all the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And about 3 years later, I went to the most respected orthopedic surgeon in the area, and he spent 45 minutes with me. And he said, I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know. I don't have anything I could do for you. You may be like this for the rest of your life. Just try to live the best you can. And that's not something you want to hear when you're only 28 years old
Right.
and you're already, you've lost everything. You've lost your ability to go to school and work. I was working on my master's in social work at the time. So I was, pretty depressed. And fortunately, a friend of mine who's a health reporter suggested that I read a book about the mind body connection. And at the time, just to keep my mind busy,
Mm-hmm.
I was watching the Holocaust miniseries on TV and reading books about World War II and the Holocaust, just because it fascinated me and it took my mind off of my pain. But I didn't realize that it could make my pain worse.
Wow.
And the book was about
Okay.
someone who healed himself from a chronic degenerative joint disease that he was told he just wouldn't recover. It just get worse and worse. And he healed himself with laughter.
I believe
So
that.
I immediately shut off the Holocaust miniseries and started occupying my mind with better things. And then the book mentioned biofeedback. So I went for a couple of biofeedback sessions. And I was pretty broke at the time. I'd only, worked as at full time a couple of years before I quit to go to school. And I had no income. I had a few dollars in the bank left. And I went to see this psychologist who did hand temperature biofeedback with me. And hand temperature is a measure of how stressed you are.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught me how to relax and told me that if I relaxed, if I warmed my hands, which is a sign of relaxation, that I would have less stress and I'd start to feel better. And he also told me that worrying about the pain, which I was doing a lot because I didn't know what was wrong with me or how the rest of my life would be, he told me that would make things worse. So by the next day, my pain was 50% less, which I attribute to I felt so out of control. I felt like my body was doing something to me, was attacking me, and there was nothing that I could do. So just having that sense of control back and having something I could do made a huge difference.
I
And
bet.
then over time, I practiced and mastered relaxation with hand warming, and then looked at other mind body things, looked at my, trauma in my life, my emotional suppression, things like that. I got into a exercise program at the Y for people with back trouble, looked at my nutrition, just kind of put put in place a comprehensive program to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And that, eventually I was able to get back to work and then finish my degree part time. And then a few years later, I decided to, get a clinical social work practice going, really focusing on people with chronic pain and
Good for
chronic
you.
illness.
Good for you. Smooth.
Oh, I was going to interject a little while back when you'd mentioned going to various doctors, and nowadays you have general practitioners, you have nurse practitioners. And what I really wish that if you go to either one, even if you went to the damn ER, I would like to hear, I don't know. However, let me give you some leads. Instead of, well, let me give you this drug.
Yeah, I
let
was
me,
going to say that's what they'll do.
that's what they frickin' do. Excuse my language. But
Take
it's
this
like,
script.
I
tell me
understand.
you.
I understand the frustration. In fact, one of the biggest disappointments
Right.
I had was after I got better and after I started my practice, I contacted that orthopedic surgeon who told me there was nothing he could do for me. And I said, remember me? I thought that you were great. You were so compassionate and wonderful, but you said you couldn't help me. And now I've discovered a way to help people. Will you refer to me? And he wouldn't even talk to me.
Oh, that's
I
so
sent him a
funny.
letter. It was pre-internet,
Yep,
and I
that is
sent
so
him a
funny.
letter,
That
Wait,
is
and he
so
wait,
called
funny.
wait,
himself.
wait, wait. But bring up what happened when the doctor
I've
walked
had
out
them
on
walk out
us
of the office
for the
on me.
same kind of reason.
If
Explain.
they're so scripted to do a certain way, and I didn't want to. And back in the day when you used to go to the doctor, they would say, "Do you have any questions?" Well, this doctor didn't ask none, and I had paper of questions. So I'm asking him questions, and even that leads to the holistic part of the health, because what he wants to prescribe, I will not take. And I'm saying, do you have anything else? This guy got mad at me. He walked out of the office. They never called me anymore. And a lot of people need to learn this, that yes, there are good doctors out there, but there are some out there bad that make it worse for other people. And even with that said, we as individuals need to learn to help ourselves too. We need to learn how to help the situation, because it is a mind body thing. What's Smooth?
And I want to go back and exactly touch on exactly what she said when she treats people, let's say, with PTSD or something else going on. And even when you went to this psychology who taught you how to utilize the power of the brain to heal yourself, there is it's true. A lot of the stress that we put on ourselves can cause damage to our bodies. We can do the reverse and heal ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. But
Right.
now,
Chronic stress and unresolved trauma can cause chronic pain, but chronic pain can also cause stress, a significant amount of stress, and it can also, make the pain worse in the process.
well, how are you
But
now?
also, even if that isn't the reason you have pain, no matter what the cause is, being more relaxing your body is going to help. And there's also a phenomenon that happens when pain is chronic, which is called central sensitization. And what happens is that the brain just gets stuck sending those pain signals long after you've healed.
Mm-hmm.
So the brainwave biofeedback is really helpful for that.
Well, how are you
That
now?
it gets the brain to calm down and stop sending those signals.
How are you now with your chronic pain? Are you chronic pain free?
I would say chronic pain free, but I do have pain that comes now and then. I do have flare ups. The original problem that was disabling is no longer there.
Well, good.
The original foot problem that plagued me for 14 years before I found a solution, that's no longer a problem. But things come up. I'm 71 years old now,
Well, you
72
look
next
damn
month.
good, might I say. What?
And you know, things come up, but
Right.
I have a way of dealing with it now. I have almost an embarrassing array of tools to deal with pain. I have all these devices. One of them was that light therapy device you showed, pulse electromagnetic frequency devices, massage devices and tools. I've got all kinds of stuff that that I can use.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, I don't worry about it when pain comes up. I just say, well, is it a physical thing? Is it the mind body thing?
Yep.
Is it a combination?
Yep.
I start doing my thing, and I can get rid of it without it becoming chronic.
Yep.
A
I
few
love it.
years ago, I got tripped by an employee in a department store and broke my ankle.
Wow.
And my thinking about that was, I have so many tools. It's a good thing that I have this history because, I had to have surgery, so there was post-surgical pain, and I didn't want to take opioids. One of the things about opioids, people talk a lot about addiction, which is definitely a huge risk. 10 to 12% of people who are prescribed opioids medically get addicted. But the other piece of that is that there's other side effects. And one of them is if you take opioids for acute pain, you're more likely to develop chronic pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very aware of that.
Well, see, you're one up on a lot of things that a lot of people is not, and I hope that they're taking heed of this and the fact that there is something you can do. When you get a pain, that's telling you something's wrong somewhere, and by definition, chronic pain is the pain that lasts, they say, longer than 6 months and affect the person's how they live their daily life. But if you ask someone with chronic pain, they'll say, no, it's before 6 months. You know what I mean? We go through this a lot. And you said it yourself, and I agree. The traditional way of managing chronic pain is either physical therapy, over the counter, or prescription medications that we all know comes with undesirable side effects. But me, I think, like you, I think it's the mental and the emotional awareness that's very important, So
yeah.
so, is it true that also when it comes to pain, that what you eat can have a major impact on your pain levels?
Yes, definitely. That was the hardest thing for me to grasp as a patient, that diet would have anything to do with it. But inflammation is a key factor in diet.
Mm-hmm.
And there are diets that are inflammatory and diets that are anti-inflammatory. So, you want to avoid sugar, red meat, processed foods in particular. You want to eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and healthy fats. For instance, fish
Mm-hmm.
that has omega-3 fatty acids, avocado, olive oil, all those have anti-inflammatory effects. There's also toxins in your food.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are more sensitive to them than others, like MSG. Some people are very sensitive to gluten. So if and another one that people don't realize is aspartame, a NutraSweet. That is really toxic, and in some people, it can cause widespread pain. In fact, I had a client years ago who had widespread pain, and she was on some really, really serious drugs, and she wanted to get pregnant, and they told her she couldn't. She couldn't try because what she was taking was so toxic that it would be a danger to a fetus. And she stopped using aspartame, and her pain went away. She was able to get off her medication and get pregnant and have a healthy baby. And she even invited me to the celebration of the birth.
That's nice. That's nice.
Now, real quickly, you was talking about an artificial sweetener that can cause harm. Was that NutraSweet? Now, is that something that everybody has been introduced to? I thought that was for coffee and stuff like that, right?
Well, it's
Or is
a
it put in other
sweetener.
stuff?
It's a chemical sweetener, and it's in all diet sodas. Any thing that says 0 calorie drinks or 0 calorie sweetener you can add to your food. Usually it's aspartame, or NutraSweet is the brand name. It's in a lot of foods that people don't realize. Sometimes it's even in your toothpaste.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry, Tanya Harding tripped you.
She didn't get it.
What's that about Tanya Harding?
I said, was she the one that tripped you at work?
Skating, no.
I went way back to the Olympics.
Yeah, he went back to the Olympics. He's like,
I remember her. Actually, it was her husband who attacked the other skater, but she got blamed and lost her career. There's a good movie about her and that whole thing. Really a sad story.
Now she's on some TV show, so don't worry about her. She's doing just fine.
It's all good. But Cindy,
well, I hope so, because she had a rough beginning, according to the movie. She had a very abusive
I
mother,
think she's
no
moved on and
father
healed.
around,
She's
very
to
poor. Amazing
on and
that she
heal
was
from
able
it.
to do what she did and achieve what she did, and it's too bad her career got cut short.
Right. Well,
I hope she
keep a
got back
backup
on her
plan and
feet.
everything. I tell everyone keep a backup plan on everything. So hopefully she's doing good, doing something. She's alive, so there's every opportunity. You're done, Smooth?
I'm
That was
done.
a good one, Smooth. I thank you. So Cindy, listen, in your opinion, how deep does someone's core beliefs about what pain is affect their ability to cope with pain?
Well, I think that it's very important. I mean, I think the most important thing is that people believe that they can overcome it. Because I encounter a lot of people that, somebody told them, probably a doctor, that their pain is chronic, and they just say, oh, that means I could never get better. And I see this in discussions on social media all the time, on, pages of forums where people are discussing pain, that they say, yeah, I have chronic pain, so I'll never get better. And as you said earlier, it just means that you've had pain for a long time. You've had pain for 3 or 6 months. It doesn't mean you can't get better.
Right.
And then, some people will think, more religious people sometimes might think, oh, this is God's punishment. I'm a bad person. It means I'm a bad person. And that is, really a belief that will hold you back.
Shouldn't be. God is not going to make you suffer.
You're mentally putting your own self down mentally. I mean, like I said, it's a mind-body thing. If you feel that way, think that way, and see that way, that they're not going to see any other way.
Right.
And that's where that effort comes in, because you can make a difference. My word that I always use when it comes to pain and things is stable. If I can just say stable, because I know what the situation is, you're doing what you have to do. Hey, that there it is. But you are the author. You are the one of the book entitled "The Truth About Chronic Pain Treatments: The Best and Worst Strategies for Becoming Pain-Free." Tell me about the book, and give me a safe and effective strategy tip from the book for coping with chronic pain.
Well, so the book goes through, I don't know how many treatments it is, a variety of treatments. Some of them people have heard of, some of them they haven't. Things like physical therapy, chiropractic, acupuncture, massage. It also talks about the red and infrared light therapy that I mentioned earlier. It talks about the mind-body connection a lot. A lot of the focus of the book is why you haven't heard about it before, why your doctor hasn't told you about it, if it's so great. And so there's an element of the book about the suppression of alternative medicine. And, as I said, I think the most important thing is to keep looking and keep trying until you find something. If people go to my website, the Alternative Pain Treatment Directory, the address is paintreatmentdirectory.com. There's inspiring stories of people who had pain for a really long time, tried all kinds of things. One of the more recent stories I posted is about a woman who had something called complex regional pain syndrome. And that's where a limb just gets very painful and atrophies, and sometimes it goes to the other limb, usually starts from some minor injury that doesn't heal and progresses. And she was in so much pain and so miserable that she spent about $250,000 traveling all over the world, trying everything you can imagine. Some of it harmed her. A lot of it just didn't help. And finally, she addressed her trauma, and that's what made her better.
Wow.
So, and she has a clinic, I believe it's now in Idaho. She's one of the providers, is listed on my alternative pain treatment directory website. But there's stories like that. I have another story about a woman who, went through 30 years of pain. And it wasn't until somebody, well, actually, this particular woman I'm thinking of, it was 11 years of, going from doctor to doctor, being totally miserable, having widespread pain. And then finally, she went to a rheumatologist who measured her vitamin D levels and found out she was really deficient and optimized her vitamin D, and her pain went away. So, I think the biggest thing is just keep looking. Pain is not a medication deficiency.
Right.
You touched on it. I thought was
why you have it.
Can I interrupt 1 second, Cindy? I thought what you touched on a little something I thought was kind of interesting, and I see it amongst doctors. And that would be that, a physician might not like to see you going to a chiropractor, or what is it, the other guy that works with your bones, or even between the chiropractor
taking their money.
It's it's like it almost seems like they don't work together to try to fulfill a solution that's going to benefit
Not anymore.
you.
Right.
Well, there's a history with the AMA and chiropractors, where the American Medical Association did everything they could to discredit chiropractors, to say that they were quacks, to pass laws that would go after chiropractors and send them to jail for practicing medicine without a license. And, in my book, I have an interview with a chiropractor who at the time was in practice for over 50 years. And he started practicing when it was still illegal. And chiropractors would go to jail. And he was telling me that after the judge would sentence the chiropractor, they'd say, meet me in my chamber. And then the judge would say, can you work on my back?
Wow.
Prison guards
That's
would say,
crazy.
can you work on my back? So there's that history. You weren't allowed even to, if you were a physician, you weren't allowed to associate with a chiropractor. You weren't allowed to consult or refer to them. You weren't even allowed to belong to the same country club.
That's terrible.
Doesn't that also apply to holistic medicine?
Yeah, I was just going to say that's how they are
you could
about
go
holistic.
go to a naturalist and see if XYZ might help.
Yep.
Yeah, they won't refer, and some of it is ignorance.
Yeah.
Some of it is they just don't know any better. One of my goals is to develop an online course for physicians about alternative pain medicine.
Well, they need it.
It was a survey that was done, I think it was in 2017. No, I think it was earlier than that, of primary care physicians in academic medical centers. And they asked them if they felt competent to treat pain. And 66% of them said no.
Wow.
So in medical school, they get no training about pain, an average of 2 hours throughout medical school. In my book, I also look at journals, the mainstream journals that physicians read. And do they ever mention alternative pain treatment? Almost never.
They're alternative.
1% of the time.
Yeah, it caused an opioid epidemic in the United States. Their way of dealing with pain.
I've said it so many times that if these doctors, well, now there's good doctors out there. But if all physicians and doctors really wanted to make you better, wanted to heal you, they would be out of business. Them and the pharmaceuticals would be out of business. When a doctor walks out of you, when you're asking them a true, honest, holistic question, I can mention the word turmeric, and he says off the record,
I take some every day.
I take but he still got to push this other medicine, and I'm not going to take it. But many people with cancer related pain, chronic pain, other health conditions, they turn to medical cannabis or marijuana, bud, chronic. There's so many names you can name for it, you know. But I'm sure that someone is unaware, and I know this from messages that I've gotten, and want to know, how does cannabis, marijuana medical, how does it treat chronic pain? And to that you say what?
So, what's been discovered, and, a lot of the research on cannabis was done in Israel, of all places. What research in Israel found is that in our body, we have what's called an endocannabinoid system, and it's natural cannabinoids that our bodies produce for pain relief. And we have receptors throughout our bodies that link with these natural cannabinoids. And marijuana is the only known plant that has cannabinoids. So it's supplementing a natural thing that's in your body that helps with pain. And one of the things, they talk with opioids about harm reduction. One of the things about marijuana is that we know it's been used for over 5,000 years. There's documentation as far as 5,000 years ago that people were using this. And in those 5,000 years, we know of not a single case of an overdose or death from marijuana.
Absolutely.
And compare that to opioids, where in the last 2 decades, about 1 million people have died
Yep.
from opioids.
Absolutely.
So just from that perspective, if nothing else, we should be pushing marijuana instead of opioids.
I agree with you indeed. I mean, since cannabis isn't FDA approved medication yet, there's not a set dose for it, but I personally believe in that. I want to take a quick break, but this is a very informative break. And when we get back, let's get it on with more conversation with Cindy Perlin. Check this out. So someone didn't know, there's the proof, just like Cindy says, and I agree too. It's been around for over 5,000 years. This is something in it. But in a survey of over 900 people with chronic pain, 75% of them reported pain relief as the main benefit, being cannabis and marijuana. But then they did another study, and this study showed that opioid use for pain went down 60% in those using cannabis for chronic pain and not opioids. So explain the how chronic pain treatment is related to the opioid crisis. What can we do about this?
Well, one of the things that I think is really important is that so many people get addicted from being prescribed opioids, not from initially going to the street to get some, but they have an injury and the doctor gives them opioids. And even though we know how dangerous it is over all these years, they're still writing, I think the last count was 132 million prescriptions a year in the US. And the prescription rate varies quite a bit, even from county to county, from state to state.
That's a
We have to
shame.
stop giving people opioids to begin with because we keep feeding this crisis. So the first thing is, training doctors on what they could do instead. And of course, when you talk about medical marijuana and other alternative therapies, we need to start paying for them, having insurance cover them.
Right?
Because so many people can't afford alternative treatments.
Right?
And alternative treatments in general, as a percentage of the healthcare system, is less than 1% of the healthcare budget spent on alternative medicine. There are so many people who get trained in alternative medicine leaving the field. I was just looking at statistics recently, and 50 to 60% of massage therapists leave massage therapy within 10 years of being trained. Something like 30 to 40% of chiropractors, mental health professionals, all these people who are trained and wanted to do alternative therapy, because of the lack of reimbursement, because of, in some cases, like for chiropractors and physical therapists who are somewhat covered by insurance, the paperwork, the low fees, they're unable to make it. So we need to start supporting those professions. We need to cover the treatments, and we need to cover things like medical marijuana.
Can I ask you a quick question? I want to go upon your expertise and go back to cannabis. And there's stuff out there called RSO, or Rick Simpson oil. How is that concentrate more effective towards chronic pain than just simply smoking marijuana cigarettes?
That's like a gummy, or what is that other? It's not a gummy. It's like
all I know is it's part of that.
RSO. Rick Simpson is his name.
Are you familiar with what I'm asking you?
No, not that particular product, but if you concentrate the ingredients in marijuana, you're going to have a stronger effect, for better or worse. Somebody I know that I was seeing for body work was home growing marijuana, and he made edibles, and he gave me one to try, and he said, be careful, it's strong. I didn't listen to him, and I ate the whole thing.
Oh, I know how you were feeling.
I was so dizzy. It was when I was recovering from my broken ankle, and I just gotten to the point where I was allowed to put weight on it. And I got so dizzy, I was afraid to get up off the chair for 5 hours. Another thing is, if you isolate one ingredient like the THC, you're going to lose the protective and synergistic effect of all the other compounds in marijuana that are helpful, and that also, like the THC CBD ratio is really important in what effect you get.
Right.
And THC can be very stimulating. I have that problem. I have very low tolerance for THC because it can be very stimulating. It raises my heart rate, it raises my blood pressure, it makes me shaky. So more is not necessarily better.
Right. You have to know what kind works for you, because there's a lot out there. I mean, from sativa,
right,
indica,
and it can be very
hybrid.
confusing. I mean, one of the products on my website, because there are products on the website that I recommend, is a book written by a man, David Stark, and it's called Cannabis Lullaby, and it's about how he was in severe chronic pain and how he used cannabis to help him sleep in particular. And he tells the tale of his experimentation with finding the right formula. It took a while.
Well, I understand that.
To the point where he had what worked, and then he would go to the dispensary when, in his journey, eventually it was legal and there were dispensaries. When he started, there weren't. But, he would go to the dispensary, and the product he found that worked for me, they didn't have anymore, So
you say, I'm going to grow my own.
It's a matter of trial and error and finding what works for you. And sometimes a lower dose, sometimes a different CBD THC ratio. There's other compounds that are sometimes emphasized in different strains. So it's all about finding what works for you best.
Now, when you said opioids, I want to make sure we know that we're talking things like oxycodone, hydrocodone, fentanyl. Would the Tylenols classify like the Tylenol 5s?
Is a different kind of pain reliever, acetaminophen.
Yeah.
The main risk of Tylenol is liver damage.
Right.
If you take too much of it.
Right.
Some people find it's a very good pain reliever. In fact, the National Safety Council says that ibuprofen alone or ibuprofen combined with acetaminophen, which is Tylenol, is actually a better pain reliever than opioids. And the reason we see so much opioids is first with Purdue Pharma and then with the other pharmaceutical companies repeating over and over and over again, this is the best pain reliever. This is the best thing for chronic pain. And it's actually not, but people are brainwashed that way.
Right? They sure
One of my
are.
frustrations is when I get online and I look at these social media sites and, people are just convinced, pain patients, some of whom have abruptly been removed from their opioids, which is a very bad idea. All they want is their opioids back.
It's
They just
terrible.
believe it's the only thing that will help them. And when you say ibuprofen, Tylenol, they just think you're crazy.
Well, it's crazy that the government is promoting so much addiction with these here without giving other options. And there are options. One thing I do think is important, and I find this as I've gotten older myself, is that you need to know your history, your family history, because genetics ain't no joke. They're gonna follow you. You'll get sick and have pain and don't know why. And it's from something down in the history. And back in the day, they didn't have the things that we have now to help the situation. So knowing is a very, very big beneficial in knowing, because yeah, them doctors are straight. Hey, I have a headache. They got a script for that. Oh, but the headache makes my stomach hurt. Oh, they got a script for that. But then that makes a script for that, a script for that. And they just get out of here with that. I can't. You know.
By the time most people are seniors, they're on like 11 different prescriptions on average is I think the number.
And have gut history.
Now that's funny because you're right. I remember my grandparents having this great big box, and it's like
pills,
30 or 40 different like slots, and it's like, what the heck is all that? Well, morning pills, afternoon pills. You're like, my God.
Yeah, and it's not a healthy way to go, because a lot of those pills are for the side effects from other pills.
Exactly.
And people don't even realize that the medications they're taking can cause all kinds of problems.
Can add on to the list of things,
And even things that you think are benign. I mean, this has not been brought up except, I've seen it on some medical sites, but when President Biden was at the debate, that basically ended his reelection efforts, he had a cold.
Mm-hmm.
And he was uncharacteristically very confused and very slow. And, some medical people were saying he was probably on antihistamines for his cold. And when you take an antihistamine and you're elderly, it can make you mentally confused and impair you cognitively.
Brain fog.
What's that?
Brain fog.
Oh, so so they may have had a point in saying he appeared to be cognitively impaired, but that impairment was more than likely caused by a drug he was taking to control whatever was wrong with him.
Yeah, I mean, people pointed out, medical people, that towards the end of the debate, he was more alert and more on target. And, a couple of days later, he gave a great press conference. And, but it was shared in people's minds. And, how many elderly people, how many grandparents, exhibit those kinds of cognitive impairments, and they get classified as dementia, and they get stuck in a nursing home.
Right.
And it could be their drugs.
Right. I totally agree with you on that. But let me ask you, Cindy, have you tried cannabis for your pain relief?
It's funny because when I was younger, I was unable to inhale, and I was so anti-smoking anything that I just couldn't inhale. And then when I started writing my book and researching cannabis, I decided to try it. And as I mentioned, I'm just very sensitive to it. So I did find it, a little bit helpful to have some gummies after I broke my ankle. But for the most part, I use CBD, or I'll bring up another plant that's very, very helpful. It's called kratom.
I've never heard of that.
Kratom is an herb grown in Southeast Asia.
And what
it's
form is that?
very, I'm sorry.
What form is that? Is that like a
It's a powder. You don't smoke it. You take it orally, and it's from a tree that's in Southeast Asia, primarily Indonesia, and it's been used for centuries for pain relief. There's strains of it that are good for focus. It helps with sleep and anxiety. And the FDA has been doing everything they can to ban it because it does work and it is safe. They claim that it'll kill you if you take it, but it won't.
spell that? How do you spell that?
It's spelled with a K,
With a K.
Kratom. Because the FDA has been, you know, telling everybody it's so dangerous, 6 states have banned it. Alabama, Vermont, Indiana, Wisconsin, I think. I can't
That's
remember
terrible.
all
The
of them.
government always has their hands in on something. If they're not first, they're not making the money or anything, they're gonna boom. But they need to come aboard because so many people. And by the way, for the record, yes, I will smoke me a joint at night, a good strong indica. If I'm having my pain, if I can't sleep, smoke a joint, watch a movie, I'm done. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But what I like is when I go to the medical marijuana place. I love the conversations that I have with senior citizens. I've never seen so many senior citizens walking into a place to buy CBD, gummies, and marijuana for their illnesses. I think is great.
I'm going to make a quick
They've let
statement.
those pills go.
Right, you know what? And this is what I was gonna say. And she got it's interesting because I got some Appalachia background to our family, so we a lot of natural herbs, right? And they say, well, you shouldn't use that particular herb because it could be dangerous. Well, sure, if you use anything in excess,
Right.
it can be dangerous.
Right.
So that's the part that I don't like about the when you call the FDA is and when they downplay even a natural substance that can be good for you. Sure, teach people how to use it correctly. And as a doctor advises how you should take 1 pill a day instead of 2 of your pain pills a day, and you should only be taking them for 30 days instead of coming back for 6 refills.
Right.
But in any regard, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I mean, the FDA was initially established theoretically to protect the public, but their main role is to protect the profits of the pharmaceutical companies.
Exactly.
If you really watch how they work, that's what they're all about. They will push drugs out there that are so dangerous and have so little benefit. And then they'll go after, they seize shipments of kratom. They try to get it banned nationally by having Congress pass a law, and there was so much pushback that it didn't happen. So they went to the World Health Organization and tried to get them to ban it internationally. And the World Health Organization got 80,000 comments from people who said, I'm taking it, it's helping me. And so the World Health Organization said, there's nothing to see here. We'll keep our eye on it, but we're not going to ban it. Another thing kratom is really, really good for is getting off of opioids. It reduces withdrawal symptoms so that people can stop, and then it takes care of the pain at the same time. So it's a really excellent herb for opioid withdrawal and addiction. And that's another drug that, class of drugs that the pharmaceutical companies wouldn't be able to sell if people knew more about kratom.
That sounds just like the government, They don't want people off opioids and all those things. They are humbug, shame on them. But we have good people like you who is educating the world, who is out there helping make a difference. And we need so much more. And it's happening. It's very much happening. I think the perfect timing is the release of your second book that's soon to come out, Pot for Pain Relief. Oh, yeah, baby. How to safely use medical marijuana to feel better. So many people need that. Just the title alone got me sold.
Well, don't hold your breath on that because I got so busy with my website.
Oh,
I haven't made much progress, but there's a lot of information on my website. Again, it's paintreatmentdirectory.com. There's over 350 articles. There's over 120 pain relief products that are natural. There's hundreds of providers listed. So there's a lot of information. There's There's articles on marijuana, there's articles on kratom, articles on the mind-body connection, how to heal trauma so that it doesn't cause pain. So I encourage people to go to that, and of course read my first book. So lots of information. People would be pleasantly shocked at just how much is out there that can be helpful.
So you are the director and CEO of Alternative Pain Treatment. What made you decide to do that?
How things were going with the opioid crisis, that so many people were continuing to die of opioids. And, not enough was being done about that. People weren't being educated. So, my book was an attempt to do that. And then the website was the next step. And the website has just been all consuming. It's just a huge project,
But it's a
keeping
great,
it going
it's
and
a
growing it.
super great
Um,
thing. Does it also give resources for if someone goes to the directory for another state, or is it just for New York?
It's a national resource. So it
Awesome.
has providers from all over the country
Awesome.
and information about interventions that can be accessed
So,
all over the country.
so
So
that's what's keeping you from finishing this book that I can't wait to get. But that's also a great thing too, the alternative pain treatment, because a lot of people sit at home wondering, don't know. And this is a great thing to even motivate them hearing the stories from other people as well. So that's a great thing
yeah,
right there. How do they get to
yeah. And
that?
as I mentioned earlier, there is a section inspiring stories where they can read about people, including me, who
Mm-hmm.
for years and years and years couldn't find a solution and then found it in alternative medicine.
Wow. I think that's great. You keep doing what you're doing because the world needs so much information that you are providing, and we need so many more queens and kings out there that's making a difference. I mean, I'm not going to totally squash down the government, but the government doesn't have my vote on how they are taking care of our people, taking care of people in the United States, in the world. Let it be known they're not. And, their way is not the only way. I just want to
Yeah, I
say
mean, I
that.
think our healthcare system is totally broken. And I think it's because of the influence of the pharmaceutical companies who are conspiring with the health insurance companies
Mm-hmm.
in terms
We
of
call
what
them
they.
lobbyists, don't we? Lobbyists, that's what we call them. And then we'll take you on real nice boat cruises and jet vacations.
Yeah,
And we'll
well.
hook you up. Just listen to what I got to tell you.
All of their medications have very bad side effects. It messes up your gut history, your gut, and everything. But for medical marijuana, go on, tell the people, what side effects do you have of medical marijuana for chronic pain?
Well, I think that, like me, some people are very sensitive to the THC and they might get anxious if they take a larger dose than they can tolerate. They might even get delusional if they take too much. They might get dizzy. Um, but all of those effects are not fatal. They
Mm-hmm.
wear off
Mm-hmm.
as soon as the marijuana wears off. So, as I mentioned earlier, no one's ever died from a marijuana overdose. It's, incredibly safe
Mm-hmm.
compared to opioids.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's interesting that you talk about tolerance levels because Queen and I smoke not on a regular basis, but we smoke. And we had a cigarette, a marijuana cigarette that we had gotten and taken and smoked it with a friend. And as you said, he just got
Couldn't handle it.
couldn't handle it.
We had to call 911.
It was just totally,
He was a cancer patient, and we're thinking, okay, this will help
this will
you.
be great.
But that is so true. Whether it's a sativa, a
so
hybrid,
you gotta be
or
careful.
indica, you have to be careful on the strains, and even a gummy, because some people will eat it and go,
And the
that's
THC
nothing,
level, right?
and then it hits you.
Yeah, be careful on the strain and how much
Well, I think
THC.
it was Maureen Dowd, who's a columnist for the New York Times, when Colorado legalized recreational marijuana. She went there and she got some edibles from the dispensary. And I think she ate a whole candy bar, not understanding that it was
Woo!
more than a dose.
Right.
She got psychotic. It made her psychotic
Yeah.
temporarily.
Right.
But she was not prepared. She didn't understand
Yep.
So it can have a negative effect. So, you want to start slow.
Right.
You don't want to, eat the whole candy bar.
Right.
And you know what? That's a very interesting point that you just brought up. Is when you go to a dispensary, we have legalized dispensaries. We're in Ohio, Michigan, all around us. But they call them bud tenders instead of bartenders. The bud tender should be a little bit more explanatory to individuals, especially if you're a first timer or trying to introduce yourself to the benefits of.
Explain more than
marijuana.
just trying to make that
Yeah,
sale.
instead of trying to make the sale, how is this going to affect me? What can I expect? How much should I intake? They really don't tell you.
Yeah, I think it depends on the dispensary.
Yeah.
I think that some of them have highly trained staff who
Right.
spend the time and, advise you. But they put cannabis in chocolate. I'm a chocoholic.
Me
I have
too.
chocolate every day, which is very good for you, by the way. Some
Right.
people consider it a superfood, dark chocolate especially.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a chocoholic. And if somebody gave me a chocolate bar, a cannabis infused chocolate bar, and I didn't know any better, I would eat the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah, not knowing
That's me
anybody.
I
too.
had chocolate, cannabis infused chocolates home, and I didn't know any better. I tend to gobble them up,
Well,
so.
you have to
And
be
of course, if
careful.
you have children at home, you definitely don't want to leave that stuff around because they'll think it's just
Absolutely.
candy.
That is exactly what I was going to say. And that goes
Yep,
with
thank
any
you for bringing
prescription.
that up.
That goes with any prescription medication as well. Keep those out of reach of children. I have a friend, I'm not mentioning names, not saying nothing, but I'm glad that her dog is okay because her dog got into her edibles and ate the entire thing. And the video she showed to prove of her dog looks straight Chinese and he's wobbling his head and his heartbeat. That dog
all
could have
hanging out,
died.
you know.
You know what I mean? The heartbeat of what it took for and that could go for a child as well on eating, thinking that's candy, and it's not candy. So
Right.
everyone must be careful on that. Use your smartness indeed. Before we go, Cindy, I wanted to ask you, is there anything that you wanted to say or ask that perhaps I didn't ask you?
There's so much to talk about. I
Mm-hmm.
think, one of the most underappreciated interventions is the mind-body intervention, particularly um, when people have unresolved trauma. And you had mentioned genetics earlier. What we know now is that there's a field called epigenetics. We know that even ancestral trauma can have an effect on your physical health.
Mm,
Things that your ancestors have experienced, your grandparents or great grandparents.
exactly.
So that's a really critical thing to pay attention to. Another thing about epigenetics is they found that even if you have a gene for something, genes turn on and off depending on basically your lifestyle, what you feed yourself, what you feed your mind. So, I would say pay more attention to that aspect of your health and well-being, the whole mind-body connection.
Mm-hmm. I
And
agree
don't
with you.
give up hope.
Absolutely.
And go to
That's
my website,
that's right.
paintreatmentdirectory.com.
That's right.
Say that one more time.
paintreatmentdirectory.com.
Pain treatment. We're going to post that as well and have that out there with the book.
That should be right there.
Uh-huh. Tell everybody how you can be followed on social media and how they can go and get the first book, The Truth About Chronic Pain Treatments, the best and worst strategies for becoming pain-free.
So the book is on Amazon
Mm-hmm.
and on Facebook. You can search for alternative pain treatment and you'll get my Facebook page. I post 5 times a week on my Facebook page. So, there's usually something new there. Sometimes I throw in a little bit extra.
That's all right. That's all right.
More than 5 times a week.
Hey,
But
the more the merrier. It's all informative. It's all inspiring. And that's what we all need. So one day somebody's going to turn on there and be like, that's exactly what I need. So that's why you do what you do and keep doing that because we appreciate that. And I'm honored that you were here today on the Queen Silvy Show. We're going to show the book. We're going to post out all the information for your alternative pain treatment directory. And until next time when we meet again, because I do hope that we can meet again and continue to inspire the world, to bring knowledge to the world that we need. Because, in my opinion, the government is not doing it. Not even when they give you that script for opioids and things like that, are they giving any options? Are they telling you that, look out, you're going to have some issues behind this? And some people can't get off it. They think that's the
Yeah.
only way, and that's not the only way. So I
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for taking the time and being here on the show. We look forward to so much more from you. You now have 2 fans right here that's definitely going to be
Well,
following you.
thank you so much for inviting me.
You're absolutely welcome. Have a good day. Cindy Perlin, everybody. Yeah.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Yeah, fantastic.
Absolutely informative and fantastic. I know somebody's out there right now wanting to go get them a joint. You want to go, you know what? Let me see if this here is for me. But like we say, with everything, even with a single Tylenol, you must be careful, read the labels, take heed and all of that. Keep things away from your children by all means. But, we all have the power to make a difference every day when we wake up. You all have that opportunity to learn about what you're going through, to learn about your pain
Right.
and what you can do about it even before you go to the doctor.
And ask some damn
even after you
questions,
go
right?
to the doctor, you can do it. And Cindy Perlin is one blessed queen who is sharing her story, her pain. She knows what chronic pain is. So she's not going to steer you the wrong way. She wants to help everybody else make a difference, be happy in your life, stay stable in your life. So if you don't know, now you know. And you need to go to the website and get yourself checked out, the Alternative Pain Treatment Directory. It's all there for you. You can't ask for anything more because the doctors are not giving it to you. Go there. Get informed. Hear stories from other people who has been through this, who have walked it, and they're coming out with a testimony to help you. So let's do that if we will. It's Tuesday, by the way, and I've only had a cup of tea. I fast in the mornings. I've had a cup of tea, and now I'm ready to have a cup of food. Yes, that's what I'm going to have. But I need you to know that tomorrow is Wednesday. That's Tim's Tidbits. That's in the evenings. He's not going to tell you what it's about, but they do have an asshole of the week. You don't know who that asshole of the week is, you need to tune in and find out. It's in the evening, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Did you want to say anything?
Hey, the DNC's just to the other side of us here, having their little convention, so they'll give me all kinds of material. No worries.
That's what's up. And then there's Thursday, where we have the Now You Know show. That is good kings and queens from all over the world, bringing you inspirational, encouraging, motivating,
Potpourri of entertainment, my
a
queen.
potpourri of entertainment coming from the heart, just for you. And we also end that show with a special music video, and that is also in the evenings, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Times. And again, do check your time zones, but join us for the super greatness as we aim to bring the best in live entertainment, talents, topics, and resources from around the world just for you. So with that said, Smooth, tell everyone how we can be followed.
Hey, look at the top of the screen. You're going to see scrolling our YouTube site, our Facebook site. The easiest way to do is in either one in the search engine. Just simply drop in The Queen Silvy Show. You'll get the results of all of our shows as well as some other projects that the Queen and I are involved in. But while you're on our YouTube channel, we would appreciate it. Would you subscribe? Otherwise, hey, tune in. Probably the greatest show in the whole wide world tomorrow night at 7 p.m.
Well, what I thought it was me.
Maybe.
We'll talk about that in just a moment. He's hungry, so if you want to eat, he'll change that tune. But
Okay, Thursday night with you.
Oh, now Thursdays too.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, with that said,
Till next week. Same Queen time, same Queen station. We'll holla.